Hey guys, good morning to you. This is Val Smith from Mentoring Millionaires, and you are in for a real treat today. Today we are going to take you through a hypnotic adventure. As a matter of fact, it's going to get bigger, better, and deeper than that. Ladies and gentlemen, all the way from Vegas, Thom Kaz. Thom, how are you?
Good morning, Val. How you doing?
I'm absolutely wired, man. Now that you're on here, I'm just kind of thinking about what's going to happen to me next when I've got you hiding behind the scenes. Like anything goes on these calls. So, Thom, listen, I could get into a lot of data, a lot of information. You've been on the Strip for a number of years in your 30-year career, being one of the top hypnotists in the world, if not the top hypnotist in the world. You've got a very interesting story, though, as I got the opportunity to get to know you and chit-chat about, your childhood, your upbringing. What happened to you, man? I mean, really, why are you a hypnotist? Why are you who you are today? What shaped you? What molded you? Really, where did you come from, man? Did you get hit by kryptonite or something like that? Because you're a really weird dude, but you're pretty amazing.
Well, I appreciate that, I guess. The story's fun. It's one of those things where I grew up in a military family, so I'm a military brat. And my dad was Air Force, and, we moved around. I was born in Japan, spent time in Germany, and primarily grew up in the southern part of the United States, in the Alabama, Mississippi Gulf Coast region. And you have a mom from the deep south and a dad from the streets of Philadelphia. It puts out some kind of weird connection, so here I am. But it all started for me. I was an absolute avid baseball fan. I mean, from the time I was 6 years old to the time I was 18, that was my primary focus in life, was to be a professional baseball player. And somewhere around 13, 14 years old, there was a weekend tournament. My grandfather was with us, and it rained us out, and I was bummed, and he tossed me this book and said, hey, why don't you read this book and get your head out of your tail and get your mind right, because you still might be playing tomorrow, And it was a book by Zig Ziglar called See You at the Top. And what was interesting was I was sitting here trying to figure out how to be a better player. I was starting to think about where I wanted to go to school and what team I wanted to be drafted by at 13 years old, right? I was beginning with the end in mind. And what was interesting was I read the whole book in one sitting. I was so intrigued by the concepts. It was originally called Viscous Fleas and Pump Handles. And just the style of writing. And the last chapter was called the bonus chapter. And it talked about the subconscious and using, hypnosis and self-hypnosis to program yourself for success, to overcome limiting belief systems and all this cool stuff. And at 14, I'm like, that's kind of interesting. And then it's kind of what happened next was even more interesting, because I was a huge fan of hitting. I was a student of hitting. I was, Ted Williams and just listening and reading and watching his material growing up. And then I read this article about Rod Carew in Sports Illustrated and how he used a hypnotist to learn how to focus more effectively, to visualize seeing the release point and the pitching. And so within a very short period of time, I'd say within 90 days, I read these two articles that talked about hypnosis. Well, I'm a kid from Mobile, Alabama, and there wasn't a whole lot of hypnotists or hypnotherapists down there, if you know what I mean. It's pretty much the Bible Belt. So I started on this quest of finding out information. I was able to meet a psychiatrist who gave me a book, and that continued on into my military career. After college, I played baseball in college and got hurt, so I never was able to pursue the professional ranks. And then when I went to the military, I went into, emergency medicine, spent some time working in the pararescue squads, Desert Storm and all that back in the early 90s. And I was able to meet and find someone in the form of a comedy hypnotist named Jay Medicine Hat, that I saw his show, and he took my friends and made them do crazy things. And I said, man, this is it. This is how I can learn. So I started off actually by going back to his show and recording everything he said on a Sony Walkman with a microphone under my hand so he couldn't see it, and then transcribing it and hypnotizing my friends in the basement. So that's how I actually learned how to do hypnosis. And then I continued to pursue the craft, studying under Dr. George and Jeanette Leitner in Omaha, Nebraska, when I was stationed there at Offutt Air Force Base. And that's how the whole hypnosis thing really kind of took off for me. And around that same time, I was introduced to some of the same folks that had been working with Anthony Robbins and Sid Jacobson and Bandler and Grinder, the founders of NLP. And so for me, it was a quest. And it started off as a quest for personal performance, which evolved into helping other people and becoming certified in clinical hypnotherapy. And, of course, in the medical field of radiology, I was able to use that in some emergency situations to help patients with pain or emotional distress and what have you. And then one day, I'm doing shows on the side, making a few extra dollars, and boom, Vegas comes calling. And I get an offer to come do 1 month worth of shows, which turned into 2, which turned into 12, which turned into 7 years. And so I built a great product, you know, into a hypnosis entertainment. I added some other skill sets in there, you know, playing the drums, choreographed dancers, lights, lasers, really you know, Bon Jovi of hypnosis, if you will. And so that's kind of how it all started for me, man. That was the name of my show. Was, you know, Thom Kaz is the rock and roll hypnotist, and I turn a big giant black guy into Britney Spears and a little bitty skinny white girl into James Brown. It was funny. And so that's how it all, you know, in a nutshell, that's how it started. That's kind of the evolution of time. And along the way, the quest was never to be an entertainer. The quest was always to be someone who helped people, empowered people, gave people new possibilities, and opened up their minds to what was possible if they simply learned a few things about how they operate, about how the brain works, and about how to put programming into place that allows them to be successful and create new activities, new belief systems to overcome all the negativity that's, you know, surrounding us in this world. And that's really what my passion has been, is really now, as I've had the chance to headline Las Vegas and travel the world, it's really shifted back to my original focus when I was a young guy, and that is, you know, I want to be the best I can be, and for me, that means being the best I can be to help other people. And that's where this comes from, Val, and I think you and I have gotten to know each other, and you've seen some videos and, you know, spoken with some folks that I've worked with or that know me, and that's what drives me, man. That's what lights my fire.
Yeah, no, the videos and just getting to know you, that's why I use the term weird or freak of nature, because when I think of people like yourself or people on the Strip in Vegas that have these special God-given gifts and talents, that's not norm. That's not the norm, man. There's something special going on there. And I pick that up every time that I have these conversations with you, and I'll say to Tracy, like, I mean, man, this is amazing. Like, this is really weird. This is like freak of nature stuff. This is what empowers people, because people are looking for that freak of nature, something different, something unique, something exciting. And when you let loose on people, when you feel comfortable, when you're in your zone, you're absolutely magnificent. And I just,
Thank you.
I'm hypnotized watching you or listening to you, or when we're jamming on video, just on the on Skype or anything, and just watching your facial expressions or how you can kind of transform yourself. Like I keep saying to Tracy, he's like, did you see that? Tom went from like one personality to the next, to the next, to the next. You can do it at laser light speed. It doesn't even look like you're processing information. It's just like you're automatically programmed and tuned in. So I'm excited about the potential what we're doing here at Mentoring Millionaires and turning you into a product line, because I have a lot of personal grievances and beefs with this industry. It's almost biblical, like, Tom, you talked about false teachers being out there. I think there's a lot of false teachers out there on the internet, and I really have a love and a passion for free enterprise. People ask me all the time, like, why do you even want to do this? Why do you even want to work with this? Or, even when I talk to a lot of the other coaches out there, Tom, they don't say what they really want to say, and they tell me that off the record. I mean, you find out more backstage than you do when they're on stage, and
oh yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So people are afraid to confront the truth, but everyone feels like a lot of these other coaches out there on the internet feel like they have to be politically correct, or feel they have to keep up the facade, or they have to keep manipulating people. And I almost call them like Dr. Feelgood pushers of the opportunity narcotic out there on the internet. And it really ticks me off. And one of the things that really attracted me to you is that you treat the cause and effect. I mean, you and I've been preaching cause and effect for probably the last 24 years, and some people get it, some people don't. Motivational speakers and trainers, they treat effects with effects. And one of the things that I like is that you don't mask anything. You basically bring it right back to the core, because you're not just an entertainer as far as being on stage and making people make out with mops or do interesting things with couches or turning people into Britney Spears or Michael Jackson and having them believe that stuff. But you also do success coaching along the way. So outside of your gift and talent of being an amazing entertainer, which this industry desperately needs. People need entertainment. They need to feel good. They need to have fun. They need to have excitement. They need to feel the adrenaline. This industry needs laughter. It really does. And but you also deal with the corporate side of things. Is that correct?
Oh yeah, absolutely. A lot of people don't even know, because obviously when you're in Las Vegas and you're performing 6 or 7 nights a week, people connect with that personality. They see your face on a billboard or in a magazine, right, or they see you in promotional materials, and so they connect with you. It's kind of like a lot of celebrities. I mean, a lot of people didn't know that Shaquille O'Neal owned, over 100 franchises. of a particular business, or Magic Johnson owned theaters. I mean, we're all, people that do what I do and people that do what we do, we're entrepreneurs first. We go into the industry to become entertainers because that's what we're passionate about, is making people laugh. And for me, it was even a byproduct of the skill set. The first thing I wanted to do was really help people and change people and give people direction and literally turn that light bulb on for them to enhance their performance and improve their lives. But the byproduct of that was that I was funny and I had the ability to play drums and I could choreograph and I could do all these crazy things, which just kind of came naturally for me. But when I moved here, I was around, I followed Rita Rudner for a year. I had a dressing room between Rita Rudner and Wayne Newton. I got to watch shows be put together from the ground up and learn how to work an audience. And all that stuff translates into bringing an edutainment experience versus just a guy up there in a suit and a nice, tie and some, gold bling and just spouting out the same information regurgitation that's been done for 40 years. And here's the bottom line, is that we got to evolve. You can't expect that the cell phone from 1987 is going to be the cell phone of today. And I don't think it's fair to expect that the way we operate now with all the technology and the ability we have to listen to things and watch things and go online and use virtual training is the way we learned in the past. And so someone's got to shake it up, right? Someone's got to shake up the industry. Someone's got to give people a chance to go from the information to the application. And I've spent 30 years of my life, done it to tens of thousands of people in probably the most challenging stage in the world, which is in Las Vegas, where, if I've got 500 people paying $65 a ticket, I cannot fail. I cannot afford to fail. I don't have hydraulics and mirrors and smoke. I don't tell jokes and I don't play songs. I use people as props. But what I do with that is I raise the question that if he can make someone do those things on stage, is it possible he can help me break through my fear of asking someone to be part of my business or asking someone to be my customer? And that's the bottom line, Val, and that's what I think is so exciting is this is an opportunity for me to put into play what I've been putting together for 25 years in a way that we can help the masses. And that's what's exciting.
So it's kind of like bringing Vegas into the business world, like into the home-based business world, because people don't really have access to this, because life's an inside job. It's not what you know, it's who you know, and connections are so important. But the average person, they basically are trained by people that were average people, that really weren't in the limelight, that really haven't had the experience. There's a lot of gurus out there on the internet that really, they're self-professed gurus or experts, and but just a couple of years ago, they might not have had anything. But here you're talking about 30 years of wisdom, knowledge, education, being around the upper echelon in society. We're giving people a chance to actually be exposed to, a different side of the world with experience. Because a lot of these people on the internet, they just come into business opportunities for a couple $100 here, a couple $100 there, take a few courses here, take a few courses there, watch a few YouTube videos here, a YouTube video there, and they basically become, prima donnas in a lot of cases here. But the interesting thing is you've been around a lot of veteran players, and you gain a lot of wisdom from being around veteran players. So are you excited about bringing this to the home-based business industry, taking it off the strip? And you're still going to be in the strip, mind you are in Vegas, but bringing this to the average person that, they're not from a corporate background. You're going to be helping a lot of people here, man, that would never get access to this type of stuff in a million years, not in this lifetime, the way we're doing it now, because they wouldn't have the money to do it, number one, and they just don't have the connections to get to you guys, number two.
Well, you're exactly right. And just to kind of put a little bit more of this in context for your listeners is, I've got a very unique background, and it's kind of like almost unbelievable to a lot of people, but I mean, it's all documented, it's all available. I mean, if anybody wanted to check me out, they could and find out. I did, have a nice little mini career in baseball. I did have, spend time in the military and did go through radiology training and did sell $2 million pieces of equipment to hospitals. But I also pulled people out of very precarious, dangerous situations and car accidents and people being shot at in Desert Storm. And at the same time, I've also been in a situation where I come from the Deep South, and I had a lot of family members that were affected by tragedies from the hurricanes, specifically Katrina. And so I understand what it's like to be at the ground level and putting my hands in the trenches and helping people when they can't help themselves and when all hope is lost and when they're in despair, just to get them to believe that, there's something better for you. You just have to believe that and then go to work making that happen, right? And the hard thing is that we weren't born with an owner's manual sticking out our tails. We weren't born with that. And so we're teaching math and science and all this other stuff, but we're not teaching people how to get their brain to work for them rather than against them. And that's a tragedy because that's the most important organ we own. Everything else is driven by what we think. What we think about is what we become, right? We need to teach people to think about what you want, not what you don't want. Not just information regurgitation, which has been out here for 40 years since Earl Nightingale and Napoleon Hill, but how do you get your brain to work for you rather than against you? And as you know, the guys that do this, and myself included, are $25,000 to $50,000 a day. And that's just not accessible to the masses. That's the exact same reason that I built Mental Edge Golf. Because the guys that do what I do, they don't even do what I do. They just sit down and talk to you, spend 3 hours in a classroom, tap you on the ass, and go play 18 holes. $7,500. What can you get in one day? I send them home with materials and training and actually hook them up to computers and assessments. In the same period of time, they get training, and then they go home and they have access online. So you and I got together, and I was like, what if we did that for the network marketing industry? I've made money in network marketing. You've made lots of money in network marketing. It's the best business model in the world, but the problem is that the people coming into it have misaligned expectations, and their self-image and their belief systems are not congruent with what it takes to be successful. So what if we could help them get that foundation back on track and build their business from the ground up mentally and physically and spiritually and all those skill sets and give them that foundation, give them that training? Man, how powerful, how much of an impact could we make in a person's life if we could teach them to not let other people affect your thinking, and here's how you do that. Not just be positive, but here's how you do it. Man, this is an incredible gift to be able to reach out and say, hey, you know what, we're going to make this available to the masses. Why? Because the masses need it, and our country needs it. Our world needs it. And I just know how many people we're going to affect, but I only want to affect the one, and I'll be happy. But I think we can affect a lot more. I think we can affect a lot more. And, you know, I've been preparing for the opportunity to reach to people, give them something tangible, give them something exciting and new and different that's evolved. And that's what you and I and our team here with Mentoring Millionaires is putting together, is that's the difference that makes the difference. We're going to teach you how to apply it versus just listen to it or read it and try to figure it out on your own.
Well, that's the message people should be hearing, and unfortunately they don't hear enough of it on the Internet, and that's part of my rant. My rant is that there's too many gimmicks out there. There's a focus on gimmicks. There's a focus on external tools, and most of these trainers that are out there on the Internet, probably because they don't have their shit together, they basically don't touch upon the individual themselves. There's basically a major disconnect. They're telling people, like, hey, guys, you can stay in bed, be brain dead, be disconnected from your business, be disconnected from humanity, be disconnected from everything. But you know what? This automated system will basically run everything for you. And I don't have an issue with automated systems. They're beautiful. They're needed. But I never want to take the human being out of the equation. I can never imagine teaching or reinforcing to my son or my daughter or my other daughter or my other stepson and stepson two of those. I could never reinforce to them to, you know, participate in a business opportunity and, you know, be an idiot, you know, and that's
right.
The biggest beef out there. I could never do that. All the money in the world, I would never teach my daughter how to be an idiot like they do on the Internet. You know, become disconnected, be shy, scared, introverted. So that kind of goes to this question, Tom. Can you actually take a shy, scared, introverted person that just, you know, trembles? They get the dry mouth, they get the sweaty hands, they get the heart palpitations. You know, they have anxiety attacks, and I'm describing myself in the past. Could you actually take that person and transform that person that just, you know, has no self-esteem or just feels like they're not worthy of success? Even though they really want it, they would love to know what it's like to drive a, you know, beautiful Jaguar or, you know, a Maserati or, you know, a Bentley or whatever it may be. You know, they have those dreams, they have those posters on the wall, but when they look in the mirror, they don't see a whole lot. Can you really help transform a person that just feels like they've just been, you know, totally crapped on and life's not worth living sometimes?
Sure. Well, that's an excellent question, Val, and the answer is yes. And I've done it, you know, literally dozens, if not hundreds of times. And at the end of the day, we're human beings first, right? We're all human beings. We're all wired differently, but yet we're all wired the same. And when you understand the mechanics of the human mind and how it works and how the conscious mind is, you know, it's able to say, this is real, right? Because I can validate it. I can use my senses, my touch, my smell, my hearing, my feeling, my kinesthetic, auditory, visual senses. But your subconscious is like a computer, right? And it's not able to analyze. it either accepts or rejects what you put into it. So when you put information in there and you bypass the critical factor of the conscious mind through hypnotic induction, through relaxation, through a process of using a combination of both with music, which is what I do when I'm doing my shows on stage. But, off stage, it's not about trying to make people do crazy things. It's about making people do things that are going to change the way they feel, the way they perform, the way they act, the way they present themselves. And that confidence breeds more confidence. And then it starts to perpetuate a new system of energy that creates a person that is willing to go out and do something versus not do something, right? So you can take someone, and I've done it. Now, on stage, some of the most amazing performers, and again, there's plenty of video out there that people can watch. But when you're watching these shows, you're asking yourself, is this real? Well, the reason the shows are successful, especially in smaller local markets where you can do a show every week, is because people can't believe their friends are doing these things. And they come back another week later and bring a different set of friends. And then 2 weeks, it's a whole different set of friends. The next thing you know, you went from 300 people to 600 people to 1,000 people. And that's why it's so unique, because it's people that are the props, right? We're making people do things. But at the end of every show, my goal is to say, now, if you've been on this stage, I want to give you a gift. What would you like? You want to quit smoking? You want to lose weight? And there's stories that are documented on the internet of people that have literally been struggling to change the way they eat or the way they feel or their self-image. And I've worked with them for 2 or 3 minutes at the end of a show, and it's literally catapulted them into a new lifestyle. I can give you tons of examples to look up on the web specifically where people write these stories about, oh my gosh, I went to the show and I met with this guy, Thom Kaz, and he worked with me, and I am not eating sugar. I'm not craving pizza. I'm getting up and I'm drinking water and working out. So the answer is yes. A shy, introverted person may have a reason that they're shy and introverted. But when you put a little alcohol in them and you get them around some friends, they might loosen up, right? We talked about that last night.
We did.
Well, hypnosis releases the personality. And it does so because the person feels safe and they feel secure in their environment. But if they're not safe and they're not secure and they're not sure and the confidence isn't there, it stays inside, right? And it turns into this little baby that's in a cradle that you never let grow. So our goal is to unleash the beast, per se, right? It's to unleash that untapped potential by giving you a set of information, a new set of skills, like Liam Neeson says in Taken. I have a particular set of skills, and I'm going to share them with you because I don't want to leave this earth without showing as many people as possible how to break through all the negative bullshit, all the stuff they've been reading, all the stuff they've been hearing in the media, all the stuff their family's been saying, and change that at a level where the programming changes, so the behavior changes, the attitude changes, the actions change, and the results change. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to take it from being information to application, and we're going to do it consistently, we're going to do it confidently, and we're going to do it by showing people how it works, why it works, and that it will work for them.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing because I really like what Bob Proctor says. Bob Proctor has a workshop. It was one that I was exposed to many years ago. It's called Born Rich. And, you show up here at Schoolhouse Earth, you were born rich, and then all of a sudden, once you get here, and because you're weak, vulnerable, and you're in your infancy state, everything is taken away from you because the powers to be, whether it be mom, dad, religion, the curriculum in the school system, politics, the policies and procedures of life, your family, your friends, your neighbors, everything, we become molded into something that sometimes we're not. And I saw a hypnotic show once before, believe it or not, many years back, and it was almost like the hypnotist brought the person back to what it is they really wanted to do. Like, let me give you an example. I have a friend in Colorado. He was a neighbor when I was there for a little bit, and he was a doctor. And he's making about $680,000 a year as a doctor. He's very well-to-do, very well-known in his community and working with the eyes. And anyhow, he, to be truthfully honest with you, when we had a few drinks and we're sitting there on the mountain having a heart-to-heart conversation, he told me the truth about himself. He says, you know what? He says, I'm a very prominent doctor. He says, I make a lot of money, and I'm probably one of the best in the United States at what it is I do. And he says, I'm going to tell you something, because alcohol brings the best out of people sometimes. He says, I hate my job. He says, but I do it because I'm good at doing it. He says, the reason why I do it is because my parents had high expectations of me. He said, I had to go to college, university. Didn't go to college, he went to university. His dad was a doctor, too, believe it or not, so he was following the footsteps. One of the things that kind of blew my mind is he hated his wife. He told me, he says, I hate my
You're right.
He says, I hate my wife. He lives in a $3 million house on the mountain, and he hates his wife, he hates his life, he hates his profession. He said, if I could just if I could find the courage, he said, if I could find the courage to unleash the beast, as you said it, he said, I would walk away from all of this in a second. But he's so programmed to live up to his parents' expectations, his high-maintenance wife who just soaks him for money on everything. Like, she's nice, but, he hates her. He doesn't want to be in the marriage, and he wants to be gone. He says, I just want to play guitar, and I just want to paint pictures.
Yeah.
That's what he wants
well,
to do.
it's interesting you say that, Val, and I can share something that's actually very close to my heart and very personal. It just occurred yesterday in that realm, and I'll share that in just a moment. But, if you think about it, the highest suicide rate in the United States is not people who are broke and despair. It's doctors, it's attorneys, it's accountants. It's people that are well-to-do that followed this path that was laid out for them, and the expectations were set. And unfortunately, these people never got a chance. They go to the grave with their music still inside of them. And I've lived my life, as evidence. You can look online and find it. I'm a kid from small town Alabama who said, I'm going to go to, Las Vegas and build a hypnosis show. I'm going to become a motivational speaker. I'm going to coach athletes. I'm going to work with business executives. I'm going to work with celebrities on how to become better actors by tapping into their emotions and really becoming the character, as we talked about with Heath Ledger last night. But the unfortunate reality is that they're pushed into a mold, right? They're never given the chance to spread their wings and become who they truly are, because their parents, it's almost like it's a forced marriage situation, but it's a forced career situation. And I've met those same people, Val, and unfortunately I've seen some of them take their own lives because of the reason that they're trapped inside of an expectation and a reality that's not their own. And I think that we have one life to live, and again, when people come to these events, when we do these powerful events and we're talking about things, it's almost, and I only say this because I'm from the South and I've been approached to literally do this. I mean, I've watched Joel Osteen. I've watched some of the best preachers and sermons in the world. I've watched some of the best motivational speakers from the pulpit take the emotion, make everybody in that room think they're talking to me. He's talking about me. God's talking to me, right? But in my case, it's about what if we could teach you how to unleash the beast? What if we could get you to believe in yourself so much that you walk away from everything that you're uncomfortable with, and go chase your dreams, chase your reality, chase your passion? And that's what's exciting, right? So what I was going to tell you is look at the people who've achieved their levels of success. John Belushi, Heath Ledger, and as recently as yesterday, someone that I personally spent time on stage playing drums with, Matt Roberts, the founder and guitarist from Three Doors Down, a phenomenal band, lots of hits. A great group of guys. I watched them come up in the Escatawpa, Mobile, Alabama area. They played at Dolphin Street. They played at the fraternity houses. They got a record deal with their song Kryptonite, and they became a giant rock band, with huge hits and huge platinum selling albums and, tens of millions of dollars. And they're all down home boys. The problem is that when you get successful, things start coming at you that you're not prepared for, right? And so Matt got involved in using some drugs early in life. He walked away from the band a few years ago, rehabilitated, and was on the right path, opened up a company to sell valves in Mobile, Alabama. And I got the unfortunate reality yesterday. I'm online and I see rocker dead at 38. Rocker Matt Roberts dies of an overdose. And I'm like,
wow.
What? I know this guy. I watched him driving a beat-up old jalopy van to carry the equipment around and playing songs, and just with his white hair and his smile. And I sat with him, had a beer, and hang out, and jumped on stage and jammed with him and Top of the Orange, a little local band he was developing. His protege, Brandon Ulmer, who's one of the best guitarists I've ever heard, I spoke with him yesterday, and I'm like, Brandon, what happened? He goes, man, he just fell back off the wagon, and we tried to help him. And so that's the same reason, Val, I started Home Run Against Drugs, and we've given away 500,000 books to kids to teach them to stay away from drugs, alcohol, tobacco, because we want them to make better choices. So if anyone ever wants to say, okay, this guy's just spouting out a bunch of bullshit, he doesn't live the life he's talking about. Well, I'll tell you this. Anybody can research me and find that Home Run Against Drugs exists, that Mental Edge Golf exists, that Thom Kaz has been on the strip, and he's served his country. And what's most important is I've changed people's lives by changing their realities, by changing the way they think, the way they feel, and the way they perform. And so this, for me, is a culmination of all my life's experience, all my studying, all the research, all the practical work I've done to work with people, moved into a model that can literally change the way a person focuses on their business, their home life, and what they do to change their everyday existence to be successful. And that, to me, is what we're doing here. We're evolving this industry to really help people be successful and make the money and live the life and do the things they want to do and chase their dreams and get out of that box, man. Get out of it. It's not the box you want to be in, so get the hell out of it. Get empowered. Make decisions. It's a matter of choice, not a matter of chance, right?
Yeah, and helping people make the right decisions and the right choices, because that seems to be a pattern, online in the home-based business community is how do you make the right choice? And, a lot of people just throw money here and throw money there. It almost reminds me of a casino, you know what I mean? It's just like there's an addiction out there, and I really think that addiction needs to be broken. And nobody's immune to it, obviously. It doesn't matter, what your status is. But, I think we all need to learn to make choices, the right choices, and be responsible with those choices. There's just too many reckless decisions being, put forth out there by people, and we could probably help those people along the way as well, too. Is that correct?
Well, that's exactly right. And it gets back to what we were talking about last night. I mean, we're human beings, and the psychology of motivation is one of two things. You either move towards pleasure or away from pain, right? So if a person is living in a situation where they're uncomfortable and they're unhappy and they're miserable and they're broke and they can't find passion and something that gets them out of bed in the morning because they want to, not because they have to, and get on the job path and drive to work and deal with traffic and deal with people they don't want to work with that they don't even like. That's not the reality for you and I and the people that we work with, because we broke that mold for ourselves. Someone had to say, hey, listen, you can do it, and we believed them, and we did, right? But the unfortunate reality is that anyone out there who's listening to this, I challenge you to look in the mirror and look at yourself and say, am I doing what I want to do with my time? It's your time. You own it. It's your most valuable commodity. And if you could learn a few things and be trained in a few things to get the information to change whatever it is you want to change, it doesn't matter, then just that information and that application could shift that paradigm that you've been living in for your entire life. And so that's what we're trying to do here, is really give people that opportunity to learn something new and something different, at the same time feel better about themselves so that they make the people around them feel better about themselves, and we perpetuate a cycle of success for everyone. And there's no better feeling than to see people go from not thinking they can to knowing they can. You've done it. You've done it with millions of people, Val. And I'm telling you that what's cool about that, and you and I both know, and being around the industry for so long, is that that's what keeps your battery charged, man. Is you see someone go from not thinking they can to knowing they can because they just did. Man, that's like plugging it into the wall and jazzing it up. It's like Tesla, man. It's like, boom, I just charged myself up. I got to go help 10 more people because I want to feel this way all the time. And if you've never done that, you can't understand it. You can't relate to that. But when you do it for the first time, it's addictive. And that's what I was getting back to and talking about the way people feel. The same part of the brain that activates pain and pleasure, the amygdala, can be stimulated through brainwave activity. If we teach someone how to access their subconscious, we activate the amygdala. We can develop experiences of pleasure or help remove emotional pain, right? We know that. I've done that thousands of times. And so if we can make them feel the same things they feel with sex or chocolate or winning money at the casino, that's an addictive quality. Well, get addicted to the idea that you can be successful. You can live a better life. You can be a better husband, a better father, better uncle, better employer, better whatever. But you've got to believe first. And then you've got to take action. And then you've got to plug into a system. And that's what we're going to help people do. And that's what's exciting, man. I just can't wait to hear what people are going to experience when they start this program.
Yeah, I love when you talk about the subconscious mind, because one of the things I taught was captain and crew technology, and the captain being the conscious mind, the crew being the subconscious mind. It's kind of like the movie Star Trek, or, a quarterback of a football team, or a captain of a ship, or a captain in an army. The subconscious mind, the only thing the subconscious mind can do is always say yes, yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir. It has no way of discerning information. It basically, manifests the most dominant thought, the most dominant piece of information or order given by the captain. So if the captain's consciously thinking about being worried and whatnot, he's basically telling the subconscious mind to present the body in a worried fashion, look anxious, look anxiety riddled, and become weak and become stressed out, and the body starts manifesting the orders from the captain to the subconscious mind. And people often ask this question, Tom. They say, well, why is that person so successful, or why does that person live in a big house, or why does that person drive a Jag, or why does that person have this and have that and all these things that I really want? Well, you could come back. You use kind of a little breakthrough for me here. You come back and say, well, why do people not have those things? Why are people broke? Why are people always unsuccessful? right? Why are people always unsuccessful? Why are people always unhappy? Why are people always losing money on the internet? Why are they so good at doing that? Like, why are people like so awesome at losing money, man? Why are people so awesome at being victims? Like, why are people so awesome at just devastating their lives and you know, going into financial ruin on the internet? Why are they good at doing that? It's totally opposite. Yeah. You know, and it's the same answer. It's habitual pattern. It's the subconscious mind is doing it. It's not that the company's a scam necessarily. It's not because, well, I was sponsored by that person necessarily. It's subconscious programming, right? Like, it's the same thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So what we got to do is we got to reverse that, help these people understand, like, using the same spiritual principles or subconscious principles to totally screw your life up and make a mess of it. Why don't we reverse that, like a reverse osmosis, and now turn that into the other side of the neighborhood? Let's go to the other side of the tracks, right, Tom? And use those same principles.
Well, that's exactly right. Well, you know, and unfortunately we learn habits from our parents. I mean, a lot of people like an Oprah Winfrey breaks the mold, right? But, you know, people that come from backgrounds like you and I came from, I mean, you know, we loved our parents and we had our parents, but that, you don't get to choose your parents, right? And I came from a situation where I had the most, you know, Christian-based, loving mother in the world with the most amazing grandparents I could ever ask for, with a father that was extremely intelligent but came from the streets. And his way of convincing us to do something wasn't to ask us, it was to knock us in the ass. And, you know, I was 6 years old. I wasn't getting spankings. I was getting in a fight. And that taught me something. It taught me how to defend myself physically, but it also taught me to mentally be strong. And no matter what's being said to me, stare it down and know that I can change whatever this is being said to me from whomever, whether it was a drill instructor in the military or a guy in a fight or a fight on the field in baseball, whatever. I knew that I could handle myself physically, so I wasn't afraid. And I think the problem is that too many people have habits that were installed in them from childhood or from the peers or the friends they hung out with. There's a phenomenal book by Charles Duhigg. It's a funny last name, D-U-H-I-G-G, called The Power of Habit. What we do and, you know, why we do what we do in life and business. And I read that book and I was like amazed at how he broke it down into understanding that we all are basically creatures of habit, right? And the subconscious is where habits live. So if we're all creatures of habits and we know that the subconscious, we hear about it, we know it's a buzzword, but if you've got someone who spent 30 years changing people's altered, you know, creating altered states of consciousness for people and tapping into their subconscious and make them do funny, crazy things, then is it possible he can help me do better things? You know, run faster, swing the club a little easier, putt the ball a little straighter, make that call to invite someone to a meeting or get online and do a webinar or a Skype session or a Google Hangout. If you can start to believe those things can happen for you and change your habits, those habits will become new habits. And, you know, there's 10 things that I teach, and, you know, we don't have to talk about them now, but there's 10 very, very specific bullet items that I talk about in changing the perception that helps change those habits. I mean, you know, we can go through that at some point, but, I mean, when you understand those 10 perception issues, it changes the way you perceive things, so you start to shift how you feel and how you perform with your habits, and we start to change that behavior at the subconscious level by giving the subconscious the information it needs to give you what you want, not what you don't want. People are focused on the problems. And just like with golf, if you're focused on the sand trap, or you're focused on the bunker, and you're focused on the water or the trees, you're going to hit the ball in one of those areas. But if you're focused on your target, and you're only thinking about hitting your target, making your swing happen, just naturally letting it flow, you become a much better player. Well, that applies to life too. People are trying too hard. They're overcompensating. They're swinging too hard for the fences, right, to be successful. And at the same time, they're focused on the negative. And when you're focused on the negative, you can't be focused on the positive because the conscious mind can only focus on one thing at a time. So once you understand that and you have a process and a system that teaches you that and then does it for you by listening to programs that are consistent with successful people's mindsets, man, it is an amazing transformation. And that's what we're doing, and that's why I'm excited to be working with you guys, is because we're going to have a chance to put this thing to the test in a big way and not make it $25,000 for a couple of days. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You know, it's amazing. I'm thinking about the word no right now. I'm totally focused on the word no right now, in how powerful that word is, and the word no, what it does to people's lives. And I'm thinking about, right now I'm sitting here and I'm thinking about all the people in the home-based business industry. They want to excel, they want to succeed, but it's like after they separate themselves from money, they get involved in a business opportunity, it's like all of a sudden the vibe changes. It's like they paid money and now it's like, oh my God, I think they're focused on this is going to be a negative experience. I wonder how many people go into a business opportunity and can sustain and maintain and be consistently, running their ship straight across fluent waters here without focusing on all the negative. And I can't begin to tell you how many people are so stressed out after they spend the money, they get involved in the business opportunity. They're thinking about, well, what if this doesn't work? And what if people say no?
Well, I'll tell you, there's a few things about what you just said. There's pearls of wisdom in what you just said, and here's what I gleaned from that. And we, again, we've spoken quite a few times to kind of get to know each other and our philosophies of success. But the first thing is it's called networking, not working. You can't expect to put no work in and get something out of it. That's first. It's you've got to put the work in, and the work in this day and age is a hell of a lot different than it was 25 years ago when you and I were running around putting VHS tapes and going, hey, would you put this in? Watch it. I'll be back in 3 days to pick it up. And you go back in 3 days. Hey, did you watch that videotape? Nah, I got busy being broke and watching the Married with Children and the football game. But I got to work that other second job. I ain't gonna have time to watch this. Okay, great. So you lost videotapes. You ran around town. You did meetings at hotels you couldn't afford. You wore suits you couldn't afford. You drove a car you couldn't afford. You tried to buy things you couldn't afford to impress people you don't know. What the hell's the logic in that, right? So the second part of this thing is in the nose is let's talk about that, because that's a powerful strategy. We even discussed this a little bit last night, and that's simply this.
Yeah.
If you understand that the nose, if you look at the nose as no's and you accept them as negative, they'll be negative, right? But if you understand that you can use those no's, and I tell people, look, every time someone gives you a no, take out a $5 bill or take out a piece of paper and write the word no on it and the name of the person. And when you get to the next yes, that makes you $200, $300, $400 or whatever. I mean, one person in this industry can make you very, very rich. Just ask Richard Call and Mark Yarnell and some other people you and I both know. But the bottom line is you can't find the pearls if you stop at the first oyster, right? So you got to keep going. But you got to also change the paradigm of what no means to you. And if you put a value on that no and you say, for every no I get, it brings me closer to a yes, and for every yes I get, it's worth this much money. Then you start to shift that paradigm. It's charging your batteries. Now what you're doing is you're looking for no's. I got to get through 7 no's to get to 1 yes, because damn it, that 1 yes is worth $500 to me, or $5,000, or $50,000. It doesn't matter. So when you start looking at it with that set of eyes and thinking about it that way, you're not afraid anymore. You're looking forward to it. You're like, hey, I got to go get my 7 no's out of the way today. I'm going to start now, because I want to do this all day and get 14 no's and 2 yeses. And that's how great athletes think as well. That's how great business people think as well. You got to fail forward fast, right? Look at LeBron James. I mean, the guy's a phenomenal athlete. Look at Michael Jordan. Look at Tiger Woods. They didn't all succeed in the very beginning at a level that they succeeded at eventually, but they had to fail first. They had to have, they had to have the emotional distress of almost winning the championship, but not. To become better at what they do and make the people around them better at what they did, to make the team stronger, to make success happen. Look at what happened this past year. They were down 3 games. They go back and beat probably the best team in history other than the Bulls in 96 to win the championship. Come all the way back and win it with one thing, leadership, motivation, and commitment. They weren't going to quit. They were going to die before they quit, and they ended up taking it home. So that's what this industry can do for you, is it can put you around people that are not like the people you work with that are in the jobs, that are not in a jobber mentality. They're entrepreneurial. They want to succeed because they want to help you succeed. And if you can surround yourself with people like yourself and Tracy and Jerry and, Todd Falcone and Larry Winget, if you start feeding yourself and surrounding yourself with people that think that way and perform that way, and that feeds you, you can't help but be better at whatever it is you're trying to do, whether that's just taking the garbage out or building a successful business. It doesn't matter. And when you understand that the power of no is something you can embrace and empower yourself with, it changes the way you look at it, which changes the way you expect it to feel when it happens. And that's, again, a strategy that people need to understand and embrace.
Yeah, I like what you said last night. Just imagine if I can't quite remember exactly what the quote was, but you kind of said, imagine if you got paid $100 for every no, or $10 for. You said something. You brought up some monetary value last night, and that would totally change perspective of what no felt like. If somebody said, "Hey, man, I'll pay you $100 for every no you can go out there and find today," and you went out there and you found 12 no's today and got paid $1,200 for that, that would totally change the mindset about no's.
Well, it's that paradigm shift. It's that paradigm shift, like I said last night, and I use this story all the time. And And it's the man on the bus story, and, you've heard it, but it's real simple. The guys on the bus and the kids are running around the bus. Just 3 kids are making all kinds of havoc, playing with toys, tossing balls. Their little cars are rolling everywhere. And people are just looking at him like, what the hell is this guy doing? Does he not have control of his children? I mean, come on, man, get your shit together. Get your kids under control here. And someone finally has the balls to walk up and say, hey, listen, would you mind getting your kids under control? I mean, they're kind of running around here, jumping around on the chairs. And the guy looks up with these deep, somber eyes and he says, I'm so sorry. My wife just passed away at the hospital and I haven't figured out how to tell them yet. And that person just flipped the switch from being pissed off and angry and frustrated and representing the group to telling the group what just happened and getting everyone's sympathy and understanding the man's situation and trying to help him get through this bus ride to wherever he's going. And that's what we need to do with people with the word no. That's what we also need to do with people in understanding this industry. This industry has created more millionaires than any other industry in history. And the reason is it's got the most leverage. And with social media and a strategy and y'all's system, people can do it if they just follow the ingredients that make the system work. If you knew how to make Coca-Cola and you had the ingredients, you had the process, and you could do it, you probably could make Coca-Cola. But would you be willing to go out there and plug it into distributors and sell it all over the world like they did? Probably not. You'd probably be lazy. But if you're willing to do the work and follow the people like yourself that have done it and listen to what they're teaching you, then you can get the same results. Success leaves clues. It's not rocket science. There's a map for success. Other people have done it. You can do it too. But use the no's as the battery charging of success. Plug in, get as many no's as possible, because when you get the yes, it feels amazing. You get enough yeses, you have a business, you have a successful team, and you're off to the races, right? You've seen it, you've done it, you've experienced it, you've taught other people how to do it. That's what's so exciting about this industry and where we're taking this new training opportunity.
Well, yeah, getting people to feel comfortable with using the telephone, I think, is really important, too, because you've just brought up a really good point. Feeling comfortable in communicating is so important in everything you do, whether it be your kids, your grandkids, husbands or wives. Feeling comfortable with communication is really important, and we had an example this morning. Received a text this morning that could have been taken out of context because it was a text. There was no emotion. There was no explanation. It was a one-liner. And there was so many thoughts that could be, processed by that one particular text. And then the thought that we were thinking in that text was not the thought at all that the person who sent the text was trying to relay to us. So that's why I think it's so important to help people understand the power of communication, and that, even in marketing, it's just everybody's looking, Tom, for that way to avoid contact, avoid communication, and let a letter represent whatever it represents. And I think that's dangerous. I personally do, because I could write a letter, I could send it to you, I could send it to 7 other people, but you're going to interpret it all different ways probably. You know what I mean?
Oh, 100%. And I'm glad you brought that up, because as a hypnotist, as a motivational speaker, as an entertainer, the quality of communication determines the quality of your performance. It also determines the quality of your life. I mean, how many people, the number one cause of problems in a marriage or problems with your kids, typically, money has a lot to do with it. And if you have some money issues, that can cause stress. But it's communication. It's setting expectations. And, as a hypnotist, I've learned one thing. One of the greatest of all time, Milton Erickson, who probably impacted more people than ever back before hypnosis was a huge thing in the 1950s and 60s. It's all about how you speak to someone, how you say things, the voice inflection, the tones, the questions you ask, and the way you respond, right? And so as a hypnotist, when I have people come in the room, especially when you have people paying $50, $60 a pop in a room that's already got a bunch of drunks in it in Las Vegas, where you're competing against Cirque du Soleil and 15 other shows at the same time, the idea is simply this. I have to get them to trust me. I have to get them to come on a journey with me. Then I have to get them to come up on a stage with a complete stranger and trust that they're going to do something unique and fun. It's not going to throw them completely under the bus, but they want to do it. Why? Because we make it fun for them. And so communication is important, because persuasion in this industry, asking someone a question, persuading someone to take action, motivating someone to take action, really boils down to how you are able to communicate and set expectations and show them a clear path of action. And so what we do, again, as part of this program, and, whether it's a salesperson we're trying to teach these techniques, or a person just trying to improve their performance individually or in business or otherwise, is as a hypnotist, I've been a master of communication. And I have to be able to get past the barriers and ask better questions and understand what's physically and non-physically being done. And so what we're going to do in this program is we're going to offer some training in that area, because when you understand how to ask better questions, when you understand how to create a yes set scenario for people, some of those strategies that you and I have talked about, then you can enhance your communication, and not just with your business practices. You can enhance your communication with your kids, with your spouse, and even in negotiations. So it's awesome to learn how to be more effective at that. And if we can show people that, again, the ultimate salesmanship, ultimate persuasion is hypnosis, because that's what we're doing. We're persuading people to do and feel and become something they haven't believed they could do before or become before. And so that's why it's exciting, and we're going to build that into this program, how to communicate more effectively using hypnotic communication techniques, both in writing, in video, and in person. And that's another evolution of what hasn't been done in the past.
Yeah, nobody's teaching that. No, I don't see that out there in the circuit. I don't see anyone doing that out there in the circuit. Let me ask you this question. You've probably heard this question a million times. You've probably been presented with this question right by people that actually are about to take can't get the words out of my mouth, about to take a place in being hypnotized by you. Have you ever had anyone say to you, listen, I don't think you can hypnotize me. I've got a PhD, I've got an MBA, I'm a professor, or I'm an educator, I'm somebody that's too smart, too intelligent for this? Have you ever had somebody challenge you like that and say, hey, it's not going to happen?
Oh, my goodness. Oh, wow. You know what? If you think about the numbers behind that question, it's pretty mind-blowing. I mean, you think about this for a second. I've been faced up with lots of people, educational experts, professional athletes, managers, agents, acting coaches, just jerks that think they know what the hell they're talking about. And the reality is this: every single person on this planet is hypnotized by something every day. In fact, when you watch that movie Shallow Hal with Anthony Robbins and Jack Black, he says, I'm not going to hypnotize you. I'm going to dehypnotize you, because your reality is that beauty is this perfect person, and it's actually the beauty inside. I'm going to allow you to see the beauty inside that person. So I'm going to dehypnotize you from what you've been believing to what you actually should believe to give you a better relationship, right? And that movie did very well, and Tony got a lot of play out of it, and it was a lot of fun to watch that happen. But it's true. And so if you think about it, when you go through the states, I mean, everyone listening to this voice right now, my voice right now, has been in a classroom or in a church or sitting listening to someone talk to them, or your kids are playing a video game and you're like, Johnny, time for dinner. Johnny, time for dinner. He's tranced out, man. He ain't paying attention to you. He didn't even know you exist. Well, we've all been there, right? We've all fell asleep and thought we were falling off the ledge and jumping our chairs. We've all gone to sleep and awakened the next morning, and if we didn't, we were dead. So the whole thing is that hypnosis is not some mysterious science. It's a scientific fact that we go through the stages of beta, alpha, theta, and delta, and then we come back from delta to theta to alpha to beta. If we did, we would be dead. And so, coming from the background of radiology, I've actually participated in studies where we've hooked up individuals to MRIs or CT scanners or EEG machines to actually see what happens to the brain when you induce a state of hypnosis. And when they're in that trance state, they're in an alpha-theta state. Their brain's producing more dopamine, more acetylcholine, more epinephrine. Their body feels better. They're relaxed. They're focused. They're not distracted. And the brainwaves shift. And so we can do it to anyone. The only thing that is a misunderstanding is that the more intelligent you are, the easier it is for you to, or the more difficult it is for you to be hypnotized. It couldn't be further from the truth. I've had some of the best athletes in the world, some of the top business executives, some of the best doctors come to see me for challenges that were easily hypnotized because they have the ability to use their imagination to eliminate distractions and to focus. If you can focus and you can fog a mirror, you can be hypnotized. So sometimes it's about getting them to tap into their imagination, right? Sometimes it's about getting them to believe that, hey, if you just follow a series of steps here, if I can get your conscious mind to get out of the way by getting you focused on a swinging watch, which is a bunch of BS, it's just an old movie trick. But whatever it is to get your conscious mind out of the way, focusing on a light, focusing on a flame on a candle. People in this call have watched the flame in a fireplace or on a candle and watched it deep focus and kind of look past it and through it, not to it, and kind of drifted off and for a few minutes just let themselves relax and kind of become part of the chair or the couch, whatever they're doing. And it's almost as if you're just one, like you can't even feel what you're sitting on. And when we have that moment of euphoria, that moment of, I feel so relaxed, it's almost like I'm floating on air here. We've all had things like that. So the question is how do you get there on purpose? And how do you use that to train your brain to give you what you want, not what you don't want, right? So yes, everyone has the ability to be hypnotized. Some are more difficult than others, and some are what we call somnambulistic. What that means is they can go into a trance almost instantaneously. The unfortunate reality is they don't teach this in high school. They don't teach it in college. They don't teach it in life. But once someone experiences it, it's almost like a light bulb goes off and they have an aha moment. And again, when people have listened to my programs and attended our workshops and actually come up on stage and said, I cannot eat fire, I would never eat fire, I'm not in any way, shape, or form going to eat fire, and 3 minutes later I hypnotize them and they're eating fire and we show them a picture, and that moment goes, I didn't think I could do that, to, holy shit, I did that? If I can do that, I can do anything. So I walk out to the audience and I find probably the thinnest, lightest, prettiest girl I can find, and I say, let me ask you a question. Do you believe that I could take you and hypnotize you to become so stiff and so rigid that if I put you on top of two stands, I could stand 197 pounds on top of you and you wouldn't bend at all? She'll say no 100% of the time. And then I ask her this question. If there was a way to show you that it is possible, would you be willing to try it? And she almost every time says, sure. I drop her up on stage. I hypnotize her in 2 or 3 minutes. I put her on top of the stands. You guys have seen the video. And I put her on top of two sawhorses, and I step up on top of this person in front of hundreds of thousands of people, and they don't even flinch. And it's because we get past the limitations at the subconscious level, not at the conscious level. And that's what's holding people back. They consciously don't believe they can be successful. They consciously don't want to ask for the business. They consciously don't want to recruit and train their team. And so that's consciously keeping them from being successful. So when we get past that and we get the subconscious involved in the right way, anything's possible. And that's why I do that human bridge demonstration, because what you believe is true for you. And if I can change that belief system at the fundamental level, I can change the way you perform, the way you feel, and the way you act. And that will change your life.
Thom, that is so cool. You know what's even cooler? People that are listening to this call probably haven't even thought about it, but they've been hypnotized through this whole presentation.
Well, I hope so. I hope they've been hypnotized into believing that there is a way that they weren't aware of. And it's kind of like anything else. I mean, people say it all the time. I wish I'd have known Facebook was going to be that big of a stock. I wish I'd have known Microsoft was going to be this big of a hit. I wish I'd have known Mark Cuban when he was asking for help in the dorm room. I wish I'd have known Michael Dell. Everybody has those wishes, right? Well, here's the wish that you can fulfill. You have an opportunity right now to spend time listening and learning with some of the best in this industry, and to go one step further, because you don't want to be ordinary in this industry. You want to be one of those people that you see in the books and in the magazines and in the videos with the house and the cars and the clothes and the travel. If you want that, then go from being ordinary to being extraordinary by doing something extra. Getting that secret sauce. I mean, if you knew you couldn't fail, would you try? And I'm going to guarantee that people that listen to the program are going to learn something. They're going to get that programming. They're going to get their brain working for them rather than against them. And if nothing else, they're going to see things differently. They're going to perceive things differently. And they're going to take that perception and start taking action and stop letting the bullshit and the negative of the job, the boss, the spouse, the family, whatever, drag them down. You've got to be stronger than the current that's going against you. And with this information and with this training, you will be. 100% guaranteed you will be. I've seen it. You've seen it, Val. You've done it.
Yeah,
so I'm excited, man. I couldn't be more excited. I'm so excited right now. I'm so enthusiastic. Like my grandpa said, I'd chase Moby Dick in a rowboat with a jar of mayonnaise right now. I'm happy, man. I'm ready to do this.
Well, it's going to be amazing just to see the material that you put out here, and then we talk about doing a live 2-day event. It's going to be fun. It's going to be exciting. It's going to make people a lot of money. And if you're listening to this right now, just please know that you've been under hypnosis for probably the last 58 minutes. It's been absolutely amazing. I know I have been even doing the presentation. And that's it. When you focus on listening to something, you know you're under hypnosis. And the beautiful thing is to be able to meet Thom live in person, see him be able to do these wonderful things, and to get access to audio content and whatnot that we'll be soon implementing into the back office of Mentoring Millionaires. It's going to be absolutely amazing to have a personal success coach. And what I love about this, Thom, really what I do love about having your product in the back office and working with you on this project is when people go to motivational, sessions, or they go to Vegas for a weekend to, hear a whole bunch of group of celebrity speakers speak, there's no reinforcement after the fact. There really isn't any reinforcement after the fact. And what we put together here is something that can help people on a daily basis, minute by minute basis, hour by hour basis, year by year basis, and help them get them to where it is they need to get to. And not too many companies out there have that type of support mechanism in play for people to be able to have continuous growth and keep it going, and and they don't have to pay the crazy money to get access to it. That's a beautiful thing. So, Thom, I want to thank you for your time. I really appreciate you as a person. I appreciate your mindset. I appreciate your God-given gift and talent of everything you represent that I know of, anyhow. And thank you so much for doing this wonderful interview and giving us an intro as to what to expect and who you are, what you're all about, and really helping people, go through the breakthrough and breaking the barriers that are holding them back right now. Going through life with a ball and chain just absolutely sucks. Been there, done it before. I'm totally glad that I don't have to live in a world of anxiety and fear and worry and, low self-esteem. And I'm glad I have the balls to do what I do. And I just want to see more people feel the same way.
Well, as I said earlier, and I echo your sentiment there, and thank you for having me on the call today, and thank you for the opportunity to bring this concept that you and I have been discussing for quite some time here to reality. And at the end of the day, I just want to leave with a couple things for people to think about. Number one is, what would you do? What would you attempt to do if you knew you couldn't fail? What would you attempt to do if you knew you couldn't fail? And number two is, have you ever been to a training workshop or attended a program where you laughed more than you sat there and took notes? And you've been around me. You've seen what I do with people on stage. I mean, when people come to our events, they're not going to be sat in a chair with the notes and a computer. They're going to laugh their asses off. They're going to be engaged and involved. Our training is going to be about them, not me. I'm an orchestra conductor. They're the orchestra. We're going to give you the instruments. We're going to teach you how to play them. Then we're going to put it all together so you can go back and take those instruments and that information and create your own orchestra and your own team and take it forward and pay it forward. Because if I teach you how to do it, you can teach others how to do it, right? And that's what this is all about. It's not about what Thom and Val can do. We've been there. We've done that. It's about what can we do to help you be successful in this industry and in your life, and how many more people can we impact through you because we helped you do that. And if that's the kind of person you are, and that's the kind of things you want to be a part of and the people you want to be associated with, you're on the right call. You're listening to the right person in Val Smith, and the team he has assembled is incredible. So thank you guys for the opportunity, and I'm looking forward to the future, and I'm looking forward to hearing all the success stories that come from just changing people's minds and changing people's lives. So thank you, Val.
Thank you, Thom. And for those of you that are listening to this, make sure you get back to the person that was kind enough to share this interview with you. It is paramount to your success. Even out of curiosity, this is absolutely amazing. I would want to basically engage in this just for my own personal self-growth and development, whether there's a business opportunity attached here or not, that's a bonus. But this is going to be absolutely incredible. I'm so excited about this, Thom. I really see incredible things happening, unique things happening that this industry has yet to see. So once again, thank you so much. Once again, for all the people out there listening, get back to somebody that will introduce you to mentoringmillionaires.net, and let's make this a reality for you. Once again, Thom, thank you so much. Everybody out there,
thank you.
Have a great day.